A nation's naval parade is always a solemn event, especially when it is dedicated to the anniversary of a monarch or ruling party's reign. This is a demonstration of the power of marine forces, featuring the flags of the countries whose ships are participating in this great event. In 1897, the Imperial Russian Navy participated in the celebration of the 16th anniversary of British Queen Victoria's reign with a brand new armored cruiser, Rossia.
The cruiser Rossia joined the Russian Navy as the sixth warship with this name. Previously, there were 4 frigates and a 120-gun battleship. The new cruiser was developed from ideas used for the cruiser Rurik. It was equipped with a more effective armor, advanced water tube boilers, a more powerful artillery armament, and a special cruise engine which provided a higher speed of travel and cruising range. It is believed that Rossia and the later Gromoboy were developed from the same series of cruisers as Rurik. They are, however, 3 different ships. When designing the new armored cruiser, the focus was on providing the increased armor protection, high travel speeds, and a greater cruising range. The maximum length of the cruiser Rossia was almost 148 meters, the width more than 20 meters, and a total displacement over 12,000 tons. The armor belt, constructed of Harvey armor, which was the strongest armor at the time, reached 203 millimeters in width. The conning tower had walls 305 millimeters thick. Rossia's primary armament was the 4x203mm guns, designed at the Obukhov State Plant and installed at the bow, stern, and sides in projected sponsons. The medium-caliber armament included 16x152mm Cannet guns, the majority of which were located in casemates at the gun deck of the ship. The secondary armament included 75mm Cannet guns used against torpedo boats. 20x47mm and 18x37mm guns designed by the Hotchkiss Company, France. Additionally, cruiser Rossia was equipped with 5x381mm above-water torpedo tubes. 2 at the right and the left sides, and 1 at the bow of the ship. During the Russo-Japanese War and World War I, the cruiser underwent multiple retrofits. Cruiser Rossia was laid down in May 1895 in the presence of the Russian Emperor Nicholas II. Less than a year later, in April 1896, the ship was officially launched. Next summer, she left for her first cruise, the very cruise that ended in England at the Naval Parade. In October 1897, Rossia took her course from Kronstadt to the Far East. The route went from Nagasaki to Port Arthur, then to Vladivostok. In July 1899, the cruiser enlisted in the Russian Pacific Squadron. In In 1903, the Vladivostok Cruiser Squadron was established. The core of this squadron was formed by Rossia's sisters, Gromoboi and Rurik. Rossia became the flagship of the cruiser squadron and thus saw the Russo-Japanese War.
On January 27, 1904, the Russian squadron was attacked by the Japanese. Shortly before, the cruisers of the Vladivostok Squadron were painted in an olive-green combat camouflage, and after news of the attack on the Russian warships in Port Arthur was received, Rossia, Gromoboi, Rurik, and Bogatyl set out on their first combat campaign. The primary task of the cruisers was to draw fire from the Japanese fleet away from Port Arthur.
In the raids between April 1904 and April 1905, the cruiser squadron headed by Rossia destroyed and captured 15 carrier ships and multiple smaller ships. Combat operations conducted by the Russian cruisers made the enemy concentrate the entire squadron of Admiral Kamimura on the Sea of Japan, so the primary task of the cruisers was fully accomplished. The hardest battle for cruiser Rossia during that war was a skirmish with the Japanese Armored Cruiser Squadron, which took place on August 1, 1904, in the Korea Strait near Ulsan. The Japanese outnumbered the Russian cruiser squadron and were superior in terms of armor and armament. In the course of the epic battle, which lasted 5 hours, the battered cruiser Rurik was scuttled by the Russian Navy, while Rossia was heavily damaged and 213 members of her crew were killed and injured. After being repaired, the ship served in the Far East until the end of the war, protecting Vladivostok from possible Japanese attacks, and carried out another raid against enemy shipping routes. After the war, the cruiser returned to the Baltic Sea, underwent repairs, took part in fleet maneuvers, and conducted a few distance training cruises for students of petty officer schools to the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean, and the Mediterranean. By World War I, Rossia became the flagship of the 2nd Cruiser Brigade in the Baltic Sea and fulfilled her regular duties. She participated in campaigns against German fleet shipping routes, planted mines, conducted reconnaissance operations, and supported light watercraft of the Baltic Fleet. In December 1917, over the course of 4 days, Rossia, as part of a cruiser squadron, committed a difficult journey across ice-covered waters from Helsingfors to Kronstadt, where she was placed in reserve. In 1922, the ship was decommissioned for scrap.
While being towed to a scrapyard in Germany, cruiser Rossia ran aground close to Tallinn. Suggesting was reluctant to retire. She had a long and celebrated career. She had been laid down in the presence of the last emperor of Russia, introduced to the Queen of Britain, and took part in 2 wars.